Okay, well, hello and welcome to those of you who have joined us. Brilliant, and Linda has been able to join us too. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Welcome to this Young Carers in Schools guest webinar session, which will focus on identifying and supporting young carers at primary school level. My name is Jess Hill, and I'm the Schools Policy and Development Officer here at Carers Trust, and it's lovely that you've been able to join us today, so thank you. So before we delve into the webinar, it's really important just to put it into context. Adopting a whole school approach is the working premise behind the Young Carers in Schools programme. Not only does it help to improve the wellbeing, attendance and attainment of young carers, but also ensures that young carers are valued and respected throughout the school. Working towards and embedding this whole school approach is essential for raising outcomes for this vulnerable pupil group, and there are multiple reasons for this. One of the main reasons young carers say they do not access support is due to stigma. So having a positive whole school ethos, where young carers and their families are respected and valued by pupils, staff and the wider school community, is really crucial to ensuring young carers and their families feel safe and confident to access support. Many young carers can also remain hidden, and BBC research suggests as many as 1 in 12 secondary age pupils are young carers, and in a recent survey conducted by Carers Trust, 35% of identified young carers said no one in their school knew they were a young carer. So to help ensure that no young carer slips through the net, schools need to take a multifaceted approach to identifying and supporting this vulnerable pupil group. So this webinar today will focus on one school's experience of identifying and supporting primary school pupils. So today we're joined by Linda Jackson, Children and Families Coordinator from Tolworth Nursery, Infant and Junior School. Linda has been the Young Carer Operational Lead since 2013 when she joined the school, and Tolworth have been developing their Young Carer provision ever since. They successfully achieved the Gold Young Carers in Schools Award in July 2015 and were the first primary school in England to achieve the Gold Award, which is fantastic.
Oh, really, were we? I never knew that.
Yeah.
Wow, I thought my head teacher should be so excited.
Yeah, I double-checked
Brilliant.
it today, so that's brilliant.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us, Linda, and welcome. It's been great to have you.
Hi. Thank you.
So, as we know, young carers of all ages can remain hidden for a number of reasons. As I've mentioned, this could be due to stigma or not feeling safe and confident to self-identify or access support, or young people may not feel they have had an opportunity to talk about their situation at home, or they perhaps feel that no positive action will happen in a result of doing so. Many families are also concerned that getting a school involved will mean that their family will be split up and their children will be taken away.
Yeah.
Identifying and supporting primary pupil young carers can also be particularly difficult, as many younger pupils may not know who young carers are and what they do, and they may not see themselves as a young carer. Families of primary school pupils may also not recognise that their child has a caring role, or perhaps they might be reluctant to come forward and talk to the school. I've personally had many conversations with professionals who are really shocked to hear that primary school pupils can also be young carers. They often say, well, they can't be a young carer, can they? You know, they're just too young. But research suggests that some young carers can begin caring from the age of 4, and when the 2012 census identified nearly 250,000 young carers in England and Wales, 1 in 8 was under the age of 8, which is quite shocking. So, Linda, what were some of the first challenges? What were some of your first challenges that you experienced in identifying and supporting young carers at Tolworth?
Okay, well, first of all, when I first arrived here at the school, I don't have a teaching role. As a Children and Families Coordinator, I'm mainly based to actually do that role supporting families. I've always worked closely with Kingston Young Carers, so I was very aware of what a young carer is and the sort of activities they would do. So I was quite shocked as well, Jess, when I come that staff really didn't have any idea what the role of a young carer is. So my first thing that we did was actually staff training, and that really helped for staff to actually realise that there were lots of young carers in the school. We have nearly 35 young carers in the school now, and that's really because we advertise and we put lots of awareness raising around the school, so people are very aware of young carers, all the staff and teachers will know who their young carers are in their class. So the three of the first things we did was staff training. We had a whole inset of staff training on young carers. We also had, we got the governors on board, which is really important that the governors are on board, and they agreed for us to write. We wrote a young carers policy that all staff had to sign up to. And we also sent letters out to all the parents in the school. We did it as a whole school. Every single parent got one explaining what a young carer is, and they could self-refer their children as young carers. And it just really raised awareness of young carers in the school, which was really good.
Fantastic, thank you. That leads us very nicely onto our next question.
Okay.
How have you raised Key Stage 1 and Key Stage 2 pupils' awareness of young carers, and what have you found to be the most effective or successful?
Okay. Well, the way we raised it, first of all, is a letter to all parents. And we also had Kingston Young Carers who actually come and undertook an assembly for us for both the juniors and the infant school. We have notice boards. The children have their own young carers notice board in a main area in the front reception, which is updated all the time. And the young carers in the school often draw stuff, or they put, they often stick their own things on there, which is really positive. Also, we have a parents notice board. The head teacher decided, because we are very we have children, lots of children with special needs or emotional needs here. She employed me to actually just undertake the role of being the lead for young carers as well, just so we could keep it going. So every month we have a notice in our newsletter which talks about my role and what support I can give young carers. And we also celebrate things like Young Carers Week. And we also have a drop-in for young carers every Wednesday that runs in one of our rooms here at the school. So at lunchtime, all the young carers, if they want to, can come in. They can just hang out and chat to myself, one of the other teaching assistants that is trained in emotional literacy, or they can just come and hang out, or they can just come and play. And we have lots of different games, but they usually choose what they want to do.
Brilliant.
So we've done lots of awareness raising.
Yeah, loads.
Yeah, I know it doesn't stop. Yeah, we let the children decide what they want to do. We had a cake sale a little while ago, which really did, and the young carers run that themselves, and all the parents will come up and go, what's it for? And we let the young carers tell them all about themselves and what they do and why we do it.
Brilliant. Well, that's fantastic.
That
it's really good to get them driving forward as well.
I think it has to be, like you say, to begin with, a whole school thing. It can't just be certain teachers. The head teacher's really got to be on board, and the governors, and it's got to be led from them as well.
Definitely, yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Thank you. What engagement techniques did you use in your assemblies? I know you just mentioned Kingston Young Carers delivered theirs.
Yeah, they delivered it with myself, and Kat uses PowerPoint presentation, which had a really good video of some young carers in Kingston and the sort of things they were doing at home for their parents. And she did two. One where it was a child was, I think she was about 10, and she was actually doing quite a lot of caring for mum who was disabled, which I think everyone expected it to be that way. But then another one was about a little boy who's got, his brother's got ASD, and it was more about the way he was really missing out on his parents' time and the emotional support he gave to his brother rather than he was actually doing hands-on caring. So it was really interesting, the two sides of it.
Definitely, yeah, and I think that continues to raise everybody's awareness really about the different types of caring roles that young people can have. And, perhaps it might not be as noticeable as perhaps the parent with a disability or something, but being aware of that. Yeah, exactly.
And also, obviously, for the younger ones, we did it slightly different. For the infant school, it was very hands-on, and it was very we did it like cartoons on the rather than people, but it was really good. And actually they didn't need it much younger, because they were putting their hands up saying, I'm a young carer, or what's a young carer. They were asking lots of questions.
Wow.
It was really good.
Brilliant. Yeah, so you kind of just tweaked it slightly for the younger ones, but you didn't think there was much needed difference?
No, not too much younger. Not too much. We didn't make it so young. They didn't really. No, they didn't need it, to be honest.
Brilliant. Well, that's really
But it was, yeah. But I think no one has any stigma here about young carers, and I think that's why we just openly talk about it all the time, and I think that's really important.
Definitely. Yeah, I agree. Fantastic. And I know you've touched upon this one slightly already, but our next question is, what information did you find it useful to share in your communication to parents and families?
Well, the two main things were what we can do here at school for young carers. Things like we give additional homework support, or they will get additional emotional support from me, or we can have the young carers drop in. Things like if you're unwell at home and your child is very anxious and upset, we have this procedure where the children can come to me and I can talk to the parents at home, and they're allowed to speak to them. And so it will take, they can actually come and do that if their teacher feels that they need a bit of support during the day. But we've also set that up that they can do that with members of the support office staff as well, so it's not only one person in the school that can do it.
Fantastic.
And also we promote what local support services are available as well, as in Kingston Young Carers.
Fantastic. And I know you mentioned, is it once a month that the information about your role goes out to parents as well?
Yes, it goes out monthly in the newsletter. Yeah.
Which I think is really important to kind of, remind parents that you are there for them and the family, and, we like to communicate and say that, a young person can become a young carer at any time, so that information going out regularly is really important, which is great.
Yes, it is.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah, that's okay.
Our next one is, what language and images have you used on your posters and notice boards?
Okay, we have lots of different images. We don't just use images of disabled parents. I can think sometimes you can just do that, but we have a lot of information about mental health as well. We have a lot of, obviously we use lots of different minority groups and different cultures, because it's just not in our culture. We are a very diverse school. We have a provision here with children that are disabled as well. So and we have lots of different ethnicities here, so we just make sure that is really reflected in any of our posters or any of the stuff that goes out from this school.
Brilliant.
Also, we have a couple of parents that have hearing impairment and sight, so I often read for them if they can't read stuff.
Wow, that's brilliant.
Yeah.
And you mentioned earlier that sometimes you put up there some of the work that the young carers have done, or the young people themselves.
Yeah, the children will often colour or do some colouring, or they wrote, a couple of girls wrote a poem, so we put that up on we put them up on the Young Carers notice board.
Fantastic.
We also had a quiz, allowed them to choose the name of their Young Carers drop-in.
Oh yeah.
And they wanted to call it Young Carers Drop-In, because that's exactly what it is.
Brilliant.
Which I thought was really funny. But anyway, it was really funny. I said, don't you want to call it the Sparkle Club or something like that? They said, no, it's Young Carers Drop-In. That's what it is. So that's cool.
Oh, bless. But I think that really reflects, again, you saying about the whole school approach and your really positive and open attitude about young carers throughout the whole school, because they want people to know it's a young carers drop-in, which is great. Yeah. Brilliant. Our next question is, did you have to do anything differently or adapt your approach when raising awareness to Key Stage 1 pupils and their families about young carers?
Not really. Just as I said, our assembly was slightly different, but what we do for them is that we tend to, rather than the children come into the drop-in, which they can do, we tend to get support via their teaching assistant or someone they know really well, and that works much better, because especially we have a few 5 and 6 year olds, and they do get, they're quite a bit nervous. They were a bit nervous around it, so we decided with the support with the parents, we would get them support with a one-to-one support rather than a big group. But the approach to raising awareness was exactly the same for Key Stage 1 and 2.
Fantastic, thank you.
That's okay.
So moving on now slightly just to assessment and support. Our next question is, how do you identify what support the school needs to put in place to ensure that each young carer is able to achieve and make good progress, attend and arrive on time, and have positive well-being?
Well, I think it's really important that all the staff know, to begin with, all the staff know who the young carers are. So in our staff room, in each of the infants and the juniors, we have photos of all the young carers, and their teachers would definitely know, but also the rest of the staff in the school know who the young carers are, so they can, because obviously in the playground we have playground assistants that they may see children upset. If they know they're young carers, they don't treat them differently, but they will understand a bit that they may need a bit of extra support. Obviously we do, if we do assessments, we actually either do assessments in of children on an individual basis, or we use SDQs, which are Strengths and Difficulties Questionnaires. Okay. And that gives us a good idea of, the children's progress. We also have a very good policy for attendance as well. So if we have children are either late or their attendance is quite poor, we would pick them up on an individual basis, and myself and the attendance officer would meet with parents to offer support first of all before anything else. We would never go to education welfare unless we knew, we would just make sure what was happening with that family first. Yeah.
I guess it's, like you say, it's about having that sensitive conversation and just being aware that something else might be happening before you take it to that next stage.
Yeah, and we also make sure the young carers also have a say. We don't just go straight, we talk to the young carers themselves about what they really want as well to help them. And a lot of the time it's just, one of the young carers said it's just because now the teacher knows, I feel that when I'm just a bit, this young person gets a bit angry sometimes, so sometimes they just need to walk out of class for 10 minutes, go and sit outside, and then go back again. Now, now we've set it up that they can do that. They can just go up and they show a card. It's like a green card, I think. They just want 5 minutes out, and that works really well.
Fantastic. Thank you. Our next one, we've slightly touched on it again already, but our next question is, do you use any particular assessment mechanisms? I know you just mentioned about those questionnaires. Yeah, we do. We use Strengths and Difficulties Questionnaires, which are you can get them on the website. Most people use them. Different schools, I know lots of schools use them as well, here in Kingston especially, but we tend to try and do assessments on an individual basis. And if a child has been identified that needs a bit of extra support, I would get together with the teacher, the teaching assistant and the SENCO maybe, and we'll all discuss together what that child needs and how we can do stuff to promote especially their learning and their well-being. Fantastic. Lovely. Our next question is, have you had to put any particular support in place for pupils who are young carers at Key Stage 1? Yes, like I said before, we've got a few that need a bit of extra one-to-one support. So we would we talk to the teaching assistants. They get a lot of training on young carers. So I've trained them all up so they understand. They're easily identified. They understand what the sort of activities they would do, they would have to do, and the sort of impact that would have on a child as well in that key stage. So they do more one-to-one support than generic drop-ins, I think, for that key stage. Do you find it harder to identify young carers in Key Stage 1, or have you kind of felt that it's been the same? Well, what we've done, it is sort of the same, but what we've done is that we've actually put on our admission forms, we have a box that says, is there anyone in your house with an illness or disability, and is your child a young carer? We actually have that as a tick box on our admission forms. So when children start the school,
we have a good idea already of if a parent does identify themselves, their children as young carers, I would touch base with them straight away, and that actually works really well.
Brilliant, yeah, so it's getting them straight away before they come and join the school, having that information.
Yes, yeah, and things like having lots of information about young carers on your website. You know, we celebrate Young Carers Week like we do, like Red Nose Day. It's, you know, it's very much out there, so all the new parents will actually, you know, get to hear about what the school can do quite early on when they start.
Brilliant.
Any new staff will get training anyway as part of their induction.
Fantastic. Thank you. And our last question is, do you have any top tips for schools looking to begin identifying and supporting young carers at Key Stage 1 and 2?
Yeah, just the top is get your governors on board. They really push it. I have to go and report every term with the head teacher to the governing, our governing committee that looks after children and safeguarding, and I have to report back every term how many young carers, what we're doing to support them, if there's any issues with children with really low attendance or lateness. They want to know what we're doing as a school to actually help that child and family. So yeah, that's really important. The governor's on board, and you have to sort of report back into them because it keeps you going in a way. Also, on the admission forms, that's really important, and sending out newsletter. Keep it going all the time. Just don't do it once and then leave it. Keep it on keep people aware a lot of the time.
Yeah, I think that's really important.
And let the young carers go and talk in assembly themselves sometimes.
Yes.
In Young Carers Week, we ask them to do that. We have one young lady who we're very lucky, he's very confident young carer, and she stood up and spoke about what her role is as a young carer, which really was a massive impact on the other pupils. They loved it.
Well, yeah, that's very brave, isn't it, to share?
Yeah, it is very brave. I don't know how she did it, you know, but I just think, you know, she really wanted to talk about it. So yeah, luckily she did it, which was great.
Yeah, I think it's, yeah, like you say, it's really important to hear directly from other pupils in the school who feel confident enough and well supported to share.
Yeah.
And yeah, very proud to share.
Yeah, it's good. It was very good. So yeah, it's brilliant. You just keep going as well. Yeah, keep raising awareness all the time.
Lovely. Thank you very much.
Is that all right?
If you wouldn't mind just staying on the line just in case we have any questions.
No, of course.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So Linda, you've shared some really, really useful tips and kind of given us a really good insight into what happens at Tolworth.
Yeah.
One of the initial actions that we think schools can take straight away to begin developing their young carer provision is to have that named staff member for young carers who will have that
definitely.
Yeah, definitely to have that and drive it forward. A member of staff will help to ensure that pupils have the same access to a full education as their peers, manage the school's provision for young carers and their families on a day-to-day basis, act as the main contact for young carers and their families in schools, be able to advise and support school staff about how to identify and support young carers, which is definitely something you've touched upon today, and just be that contact point for external agencies, so like you mentioned, the local young carers service as well.
Yeah.
And the other key action that we think that schools can take straight away is by sharing information, and again this is something you've touched upon today, sharing information with staff, pupils and families, and having a pupil or parent notice board or having this information on the website is a really great and easy way to share that information quite easily. Some of the key things that we think should be on there is who young carers are and the tasks they may undertake, name and contact information of the school lead, how to get in touch with the school lead, signposting to any support available, and where possible signposting to the school nurse and local young carers service.
Yeah, brilliant. What we also did actually, I forgot to say, is that when we started, Kingston Young Carers asked all the parents if they could share information with the school about young carers at the school, and obviously it had to be consensual from parents, but then ourselves and young carers could share quite a lot of information, which was great. That always helped.
Definitely, yeah, and having that strong link with them as well to be able to share that information is really important.
Yeah.
Fantastic, thank you. But thank you so much again, Linda. It's been fantastic to have you.
That's all right, you're very welcome.
Really great, and it's lovely to hear from a Gold primary school, the first one in England.
Yeah. You know, anyone's welcome to come here if they want to see how we work. That'd be great. The head teacher is very up for all that sort of stuff. So yeah.
That's great, thank you. Because we do a lot of training and professional events, and we meet with a lot of schools, and the questions that do come up are to do with primary schools, and they say, well, how do I make young carers important? There's so many other things going on. But I think Tolworth is a really good example, and I think you and your team have worked really hard to make it kind of to make young carers known throughout the whole school.
And it does take time as well. We've been doing it for 2 years or so, 2 or 3 years. So it does take time to actually be embedded, and all the staff know it's sort of it does take time, but you have to start somewhere. So I think it's having that lead person is definitely a good start.
Fantastic, yeah, and we appreciate it takes time, but it's important. It really is important, and you can do things slowly. And you can.
Okay, that's great.
Thank you so much, Linda.
Okay, Jess. All right, you take care.
And you, thank you.
All right, take care. Bye.
Bye. If you have any further questions or queries at all, please don't hesitate to get in touch with me by sending me an email at jhill@carers.org. A lot of the things that Linda has mentioned today is obviously a gold standard, and like she mentioned, takes time to put into place, but there's lots of support available for you through the Young Carers in Schools programme, one of them being our step-by-step guide, which you can find on our website, alongside other webinars that we have available, our e-newsletter and other professional development events. So further guidance and any other support that you may need can all be found at youngcarersinschools.com. Thank you so much for joining me, and again, if you have any questions or need any extra support, please don't hesitate to email me, jhill@carers.org.